He can't even think now.
I lost the button.
I've got him nervous.
Kinda. Are you ready?
You know, there's something that everybody wants to talk about, but they're scared to talk about. And if they were gonna talk about it, who would they ask? And where's a safe place? And who really knows? And there's this 3-letter word. It starts with the letter S. It ends with the letter X. And all the married people want to do it better and want to have more fun at it. All the unmarried people want to know if it's worth all the trouble and when do they get to do it. And Christians are just nervous to talk about it at all. What are we gonna do? I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about it. There are 3 reasons that marriages usually get in trouble: communication, sex, and money. And if we don't talk about these things in the church, where are we gonna get our information? The world? So we're gonna talk about it in a way that your 4-year-old can be in a room, but we're gonna work on answering the questions that you've been asking. Are you ready for the Nicole Crank Show to talk about sex? It's gonna be okay. It's gonna help you. Ready? Let's go.
If you make your bed every day, your house looks clean. Any place my kids are, and my dog. Any place my kids are, and my dog. Hot, warm bread out of the oven with a big stick of butter. Love never fails. I've known and believed the love God has for me. Love rocks, love, love. I've got a groovy kind of love.
So today we are talking to a sex therapist. I know. I'm so nervous right now. So Cindy, how did you become a licensed Christian sex therapist? Like all words that I never knew I would say in the same sentence.
Well, long ago, when I knew I was called into ministry, I also happened to be everybody's kind of Dear Abby, giving them advice, right? And so I think probably I've been a sex therapist since I was a teenager because my mom was an ER nurse.
Okay.
And she was a stickler for all the body parts and their proper names. So in my Christian high school, I was a font of information.
You know, let's see how much trouble we can get in today. But honestly, I don't want to get into trouble. I want to help people get out of trouble.
Yeah.
And I think, so why did you decide to start doing this?
Well, I was involved in ministry, and my husband and I were the young marrieds pastors, and that was the question we got every time.
Was?
How can we do it more? How come my wife won't do it more? Why does my husband want to do it so much? How come everybody else seems to be doing it and we're not doing it? How many times should we? Does Jesus approve? And so I thought, I see what my calling is in my ministry, and then the ministry I was involved in said, yeah, that's not a calling.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of have a sassy personality that said, well, now that you've said not, I think it is.
Well, I think we're gonna be besties.
So I took the long road through becoming a marriage therapist and training in intensive therapy, and all with the goal to be a sex therapist, helping people with their sexuality, and no one could tell me I couldn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like something that's very personal. So
It is.
how do you, because I think husbands and wives have a hard enough time
Right.
communicating. So communication, sex, and money, but then communicating about sex or money
Right.
seems to be like even harder sometimes.
Well, I think so, because there's a real personal vulnerability there. I mean, we're talking about the core wounded places in your heart that it's difficult to even talk to yourself about them, let alone your spouse.
So if you want a good marriage,
Yeah.
do you have to talk about sex?
Yes.
Okay. Who seems to have a harder time talking about it? People who are just getting married, just got married, or been married a while?
Been married a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because just getting married, or right before they get married, they don't have any questions. They're all excited and they think it's going to be fine. So they don't think there's going to be any problem. Why talk? You just fall over on the bed in passion and all is well, right? Okay, so those who are first getting married and they're struggling, they just think, well, if we just try hard enough, we'll figure it out. It'll work. But people who've been married a while and realize they've gone to marriage seminars, they've read books, they've asked their friends, and it still isn't working, then they're the ones that go, okay, I'm embarrassed. I don't know that I want to talk about this because I honestly don't know what I'm doing.
Okay, wow. When is the right time to kind of approach that subject?
I would say not right after,
Okay.
because it can be heard as that wasn't very good for me.
Yeah.
Right? So I would wait, and usually a neutral time in a neutral place is
Okay.
better because it's such a tender topic.
It is.
Yeah, and you can filter it. What did I do wrong? I'm not enough. I didn't measure up, and so to be able to have a real authentic but safe conversation about it is what you're looking for.
Hi, Ed and Lisa Young, authors of The Sex Experiment. Several years ago, we decided to write a book about intimacy in marriage. We challenged the couples in our church to have 7 days of sex. That's right, sex once a day for a week. And the results, Lisa, were astounding.
Yes, a lot of people discovered that they needed help with their marriages before the physical could take place. Many understood for the first time the value of intimacy, of sex, because it's not just a physical thing. It's a relational, emotional, and more than that, a spiritual thing. So discovering that relationship with your spouse is so important. Don't set aside the physical enjoyment of marriage. Sex is important.
That's right, sex. It's supernatural. It should be enjoyed by those who are married, and it's not X-rated, it's God created.
Like, do you have a number one question that I get, or?
Yes, but it depends on if it's a man or a woman.
Okay, so let's go with guys. But right now, I want to hear from you. What is your number one question that you have? Identify if you're male or female. Lie about your name, doesn't matter, we don't care who you are. But I want you to go ahead and weigh in on the show. You can either go to NicoleCraig.com/let's talk. Make sure you don't turn this off. Get on your phone while you're watching this. Or you can hit us up on Instagram. Go to the Nicole Crank DM, go to Nicole Crank Facebook message me. But I want to know what your number one question about sex is. And I'm not going to answer it. We're going to filter this stuff to Dr. Cindy. And we're going to do a follow-up show on a later date. But from a guy,
Yes.
what is the number one question?
How can we do it more?
I was going to guess that. That just seems like every guy's, they wake up thinking about it, they eat breakfast thinking about it, they eat dinner thinking, they eat and want sex.
Yes.
In my opinion.
There's just a part of guys that's always tuned to sex.
Okay.
And that has to do with male biology, actually. It's not about men being troublesome on purpose.
So don't hate them for it.
No, no. On average, most guys have about 10 milligrams of testosterone that they get every day.
Okay.
Right? Women, on the other hand, only have about 3 on average, give or take, depending on how long it's been since their cycle, how stressed they are, what they've eaten, how they've slept. And men who are stressed make more adrenaline, and adrenaline and testosterone is like gasoline and fire.
Okay.
Women who are stressed make cortisol, and cortisol kills sex drive.
Oh, so guys are gassing their fire, women are throwing water on their fire.
Exactly.
Guys are naturally about 3 times as sexually charged as women.
Exactly.
And therein is the delta
Exactly.
that we have to close. You ever have things that you don't know what to do with in your life? Like maybe you should pray, but you don't even know how to start the conversation. How about this one? You have stuff you want to talk to God about, you think, but then when it comes to like talking to him about it, you're like, how do I even tell him this stuff? I mean, it's so deep and so dark. That's why I wrote this book. How to talk to God about the tough stuff. I got one more thing. It's like I want to start out with, hey, how you doing? Life's great, but there's this one thing. And then I wrote all of these topics. I wrote this, like, I want control back. I'm so embarrassed, wrestling with God. How about this one? You ever said this? I'm mad, but have you ever been brave enough to say it to God and then tell him why? Maybe this, are you even here? Am I fighting the wrong fight?
This is the book that I was reading last night. It's so good. It's so relatable.
All these things that nobody else in the world can help us out with but God. God can help us, and yet he's the very one we won't go to. Through all this, I realized that a lot of other people are struggling with this exact same thing, and that's why me and my team, we want you to have this book absolutely free. So all you have to do is go to NicoleCrank.com/free, and we'll give you this book. All you have to do is pay the postage, but with it, you get 30 days access to my circle of friends, where I'll get to mentor you and coach you, and we'll develop a partnership. Go to NicoleCrank.com/free. So, how often is normal?
Well, when I do conferences or I do sex therapy, I usually make a joke and say once a day whether you need it or not.
Wow.
So all the guys go, hoo-hoo, and all the women go, huh? But, you know, if you think about sex being designed by God, and it's a representation actually of his relationship with us.
Okay.
And that's why Paul talks about it being mysterious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read the book. If you haven't gotten the
Yeah.
book, Good Naked.
Good
Wow,
Naked.
great title. Because being naked with your spouse is good.
It's good.
You were talking about this in the book. I was reading it last night. So
Yeah.
mystery.
Yeah, sex is really supposed to be a mystery. Okay. God's designed it, and here's the problem, okay? People think about sex simply as the activity of sex, the experience of it, but they don't think about the purpose of it. Okay, and sex has a design, just like everything else God has done has a design. So if you want to ruin something, if you want to destroy it, you'll use it for a purpose it wasn't designed for.
Okay.
Like you take your car and use it as a boat, you destroy it.
That's a problem.
Okay, take a live person and make them a crash test dummy, you would destroy it.
That's a problem.
Right? And if you take sexual experience and take it out of its design, you'll destroy it.
Wow. Talk about some of the ways you see marriage, sex life destroyed.
Well, a lot of times it's happened before they even got married.
No.
So it happened in sexual experiences they've had before,
Okay.
sexual expectations, sexual woundedness.
Okay.
Pornography is a huge thing that gives us this fantasy idea about what sex is supposed to be.
Okay.
And people are really driven about looking at the experience rather than understanding everything that goes into the experience. It like this, if you think about the sexual experience being the flame,
Okay.
all right? A flame does not stand alone. It has to have fuel.
Okay.
So you have to have a wick,
Yeah.
right? You have to have oil or a candle, right?
Okay.
So all the things that would flow into keeping the flame alight.
Okay.
Well, if you don't have fuel, all you do is just try and keep the flame going. So what? You get the barbecue lighter and just burn the little flame.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a place where it'll actually be broken, be misunderstood, be ruined. Girls will tell me they feel used. Guys will tell me they feel ignored. People will ask me, well, is this okay? Is that okay? And you end up really with sexuality giving you a heart wound if you're not careful.
Even inside a marriage.
Yes. The person you're married to can either bless you or hurt you quicker than anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
And so in sexuality, in sexual intimacy, what that means to a person, it really goes deep. If I already feel like I'm a guy, I don't measure up, I'm not good enough, and then my spouse isn't interested, boy, that really goes to a deep place for guys.
Wow. Is it that women aren't interested, or is it that, like, we're tired?
Yes. Women,
Yes. Yes.
exactly, both,
things.
all of the above. Most girls that I talk to will say, I'm interested in it, I think, but not the way that it's been happening or not the way it's supposed to go. And why can't it be different? Why can't I feel this place that I'm desired and I'm safe and I'm surrounded and I'm someone's treasure? So they're interested in sexuality. It just shows up in a different package. They want it to be delight. See, guys are aroused and women are attracted.
And I'm a woman. I know
Right?
I'm complicated, but that even
Yes.
sounds complicated to me.
Well, woman's sex drive is not a drive as much as it's a desire.
Okay.
And where does desire come from? It comes from your heart.
Okay.
So what's in the heart? Woundedness, my perspective about me, my perspective about me and my body, my perspective about me and my beauty, my perspective about us, my perspective about him, my perspective about a lot of things in the heart. So if sexual desire comes out of your heart and you have a lot of garbage in there, a lot of woundedness, a lot of misunderstanding about what sex is supposed to be, it's very difficult to feel desire towards your spouse.
The average couple spends 4 minutes a day alone in some type of meaningful conversation or affection. And affection to a guy and affection to a girl are two different things. And I'm trying to think of the right 8-letter word to use in place of this one. But guys, to women, the best precursor, there's a good word, the best precursor to a time of intimacy is affection. If you want to get her interested in sex, because sex to guy is like eating. So my girlfriends, I mean, really, they want to do it every single day or they think they're going to die.
You guys look so scared. I mean, just be vocal.
So how do guys who think sex is going to happen every day, is that realistic? Everyday sex?
It's possible.
It's possible.
It's scientifically possible.
It is scientifically possible until a certain age, I would guess, right?
God made your body to have sex till you're dead.
Really? Like even in the 90s, like.
Yeah, it'll take a little more time. I mean,
Okay.
you're not 18 years old anymore. It'll take
But
a
you're
little
retired.
more time. You don't have anything else to do. Yeah.
So everyday sex could be a goal.
Well,
Or could be a goal or should be a goal. I can think of times when we've had sex every day, but that's totally not normal for us.
I think there's a better goal.
Okay.
And I think the goal is heart-to-heart intimacy.
Okay.
Because one of the differences in good naked and bad naked
Yeah.
is the genuine and the counterfeit.
Okay.
And genuine sexuality, God-designed sexuality, is supposed to be an expression outward of everything I have inward. So I'm feeling good about me. I'm feeling good about my husband, feeling great about our relationship. We touch, we look, we're eye to eye. Our bodies will do what our hearts are already singing versus the way most people use sex, which is something's hurting in my heart. I don't feel loved. I don't feel valued. I don't feel enough. I don't measure up. And so I use sex to put something in.
And it seems to me like when people start feeling undervalued
Yes.
in the marriage relationship, that other people's comments, slight flirtations, they start to carry more weight where you may have ignored a whistle in the grocery store parking
Right.
lot before.
Right.
Now you might turn to see why would we turn? Why do we care? It seems like those danger spots begin when something in the relationship seems to be like,
Yeah, I think it's telling that Proverbs 4:23 says, above all else, guard your heart. Because where that starts is a place in your own heart. And when the relationship gets off a little bit, then instantly the enemy's gonna come and say, you're not loved, you're not valued, what's wrong with them? And he'll come and he'll winkle his way in to get your heart to feel vulnerable, wounded, tender. And that's the moment where something that is a counterfeit, but it feels good, you'll notice, you'll taste that. That's more tempting and more tasty.
do you find, I think it's a theory, I've heard it said, but I don't know that it's true, that there's more infidelity from men than there is from women?
I don't know that I found that to be the case.
Okay.
In my work, I found it fairly equal. What I've found is differences in why.
Okay.
Usually men are wanting that feeling of being desired and pursued, and they're kind of the man.
Yeah.
Versus women really are looking for emotional intimacy and connection.
Okay, so that's kind of a false. Like guys cheat, girls don't. False.
Right.
So if you're like smelling, something's up in my relationship, or
Right.
maybe the sex life isn't so great. Maybe some of us are having a good time, or others of us aren't having a good time, or I was having a good time, but now I'm not having a good time anymore.
Exactly.
What's something you can do?
Well, I think first of all is just to be really authentic and honest about it.
Okay.
Okay? Because the danger, I've heard you say, the danger is stuff we keep in the dark. Yeah.
Somebody's been listening.
Yeah, I have been.
I gotta watch what I say more. But that's actually
Yeah,
good.
because it's a mystery, and you need to recognize it's going to be something that maybe is going to take some time to discover and understand. You know, there's a book in the Bible that's all about sex, which I think is fascinating.
Okay, where's this book? So we've got a new segment we're doing. We're calling it Hidden Talents.
Oh, okay.
So, sex therapist, keep it G-rated. Do you have any hidden talents?
Well, I do have one that is G-rated.
Okay, what's that?
I am a right down the center of the target shot. I'm a really good markswoman.
Okay, so what is your key to, like, handgun?
Handgun.
Handgun. Okay,
Yeah.
so what is your key to getting it right where you want it to go?
Hold your breath, and as you let out, squeeze the trigger. And squeeze it like a lover.
Ooh.
Squeeze it soft.
Squeeze it soft. No, do.
Boom. There you go.
I like it.
Song of Songs.
Ooh, Solomon.
Yes.
Okay, 900 concubines. He's got something to say about the subject. This dude is busy.
Yes, and he's our example of somebody who took something that God designed a certain way and used it in the wrong way and was harmed by it.
Solomon, it sounds so romantic and loving, and you know, it's beautiful.
Well, it is, but read it a little deeper.
Okay.
Because there's a number of places, if you'll look, this is what I think is interesting. She's the one that does most of the talking, which makes sense. That's what girls do, right? The times that he's mentioned something, he's talking about what he sees, which makes sense. That's what guys do, right?
Yeah.
And when she's talking, the thing she's talking about is either what she's delighted in
Yes.
or she's troubled by.
Okay.
So if you read through, she talks about issues with having been sexually wounded someplace in her life, struggling with being too tired. One of my favorite ones is yeah, she'd like to do it, but not with him because she's mad at him. So at the beginning, it's interesting to read because she's not quite sure about who she is and where she fits. So she'll say, well, he's my beloved and I'm his. But at the end of the book, she's pretty confident. She says, I'm a lily, come and browse, right? She says, woohoo. She says, I'm my beloved's and he's mine. If God's the one that designed it and he likes it, but he likes it in the way he designed it, then he'd be the one I'd go to first and say, you know, what do you want me to know? I think a good prayer on sexuality is not what should I do, but God, what do you want me to know?
Because women's needs and men's needs are very different.
Yes.
And that's what the thing. So newly married couples, I thought for sure it'd be the newly married couples. You know, if they haven't had sexual experience, like somebody tell me how to play this game. But because I wish somebody would have clued me in. I know a lot more. To me, sex is better after 20 years of marriage
Yes,
than it was
I would agree.
20 years ago. So, and you think, oh, old people and kissing and gross, mom and dad. But how does Joe, regular guy who doesn't have like a poetic version of like, that was poetic, but like, how do I tell her just like, we need to sleep together more. You know, his vocabulary isn't that expansive. And not that men don't have expansive vocabularies, but a lot of them aren't necessarily great with vocabulary. Guys are visual, women are the talkers.
Right.
What are a couple ways they can bring up the subject that maybe will not get her to bristle as hard?
Well, I think I can tell you what my husband does because he's not a poetic guy. Sorry, honey.
Most guys aren't.
No,
So
he's not.
normal.
So I think honesty, and I think finding that place to just sit down and be authentic and say, I would like to be with you more, and I don't know how to do that romantic like a Hallmark movie, but I'd like to be with you more, and I want to learn how to love you better.
Okay, so write that down. The shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. So I don't want you to miss this. I want healed and whole, healthy, strong relationships in every area. So what would they say again?
I want to spend more time with you. I miss that part of our relationship, and I'd like to learn how to love you better.
Okay. Do you ever have things that you don't know what to do with in your life? You know, like maybe you should pray, but you don't even know how to start the conversation. How about this one? You have stuff you want to talk to God about, you think, but then when it comes to like talking to him about it, you're like, how do I even tell him this stuff? I mean, it's so deep and so dark. That's why I wrote this book. How to talk to God about the tough stuff. I got one more thing. It's like I want to start out with, hey, how you doing? Life's great, but there's this one thing. And then I wrote all of these topics. I wrote this, like, I want control back. I'm so embarrassed, wrestling with God. How about this one? You ever said this? I'm mad. But have you ever been brave enough to say it to God and then tell him why? Maybe this, are you even here? Am I fighting the wrong fight?
This is the book that I was reading last night. It's so good. It's so relatable.
All these things that nobody else in the world can help us out with but God. God can help us, and yet he's the very one we won't go to. Through all this, I realized that a lot of other people are struggling with this exact same thing, and that's why me and my team, we want you to have this book absolutely free. So all you have to do is go to NicoleCrank.com/free and we'll give you this book. All you have to do is pay the postage, but with it you get 30 days access to my circle of friends where I'll get to mentor you and coach you, and we'll develop a partnership. Go to NicoleCrank.com/free. I hope we answered all your questions today, and maybe you have more questions, and that's what we want to hear from you. We want to know, what do you want to know? Because that's the kind of show that we've built. We've built the kind of show where you have questions, and we want to talk about those very things. I want to pray for you before we go today. I want to pray that your marriage is whole. I want to pray that your relationship is healed. I want to pray that your relationship is healthy. And if you're single, I'm going to pray that God's going to bring that right person into your life. Are you ready to pray about these things? Let's do it. Father God, in the name of Jesus, I pray for my friends right now. God, all of these questions, all of these hurts, all of these wounds, we don't know how to bring them up. We lose the words. We're scared they're going to get offended, or we're scared that we're going to offend. God, soften our hearts so that our mates can say the things that would eventually separate us. God, take the fence out of offense away so we don't have to do offhanded comments, but we can have real conversations. Give us the courage, the compassion, and the tenderness to step into this, to make us healed and whole. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. You know, I'm so glad you connected with us today, and I want to hear your questions. Go to NicoleCrank.com/let's talk. You can get on my Instagram. Go to my Instagram, Nicole Crank. Go to my Facebook, Pastor Nicole Crank. Hit me up in Messenger. Hit me up in the DM. I want to hear from you. And if you need prayer, I want you to call our prayer line right now. Don't wait. Call us, get on the website, get on social. It's time for us to pray for you, and we want to hear your testimony. Have you walked through this thing? You might be the next guest we have sitting on this couch with me today. I can't wait to see you next time. You could cut the tension with a knife. So many jokes, so little time. And now you're just gonna be nervous every time, and I don't even have to do anything.